All right, everybody, it's kind of noisy right now. The airplanes seem like they're just getting some wind beneath their wings, so we're gonna try to hop on a bull here and see if we can't fly with them. But this is the 5th installment of my commentary series on If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. And I've told you how much I've been impressed with sort of the way in which he writes. Sort of allows us to read almost what thinking is like. I think thinking is honestly such an amazing thing. It really does allow us to not only come to terms with our reality, but change our reality. And I think that almost to an extent they are one and the same. It's by the vastness of thoughts that we could have that maybe we understand that there is some precept of order and structure in not only ourselves, but within the world beyond our control anyways. And then seeing things outside of our control is more so just looking at everything as being a part of something greater. And in that way, you can sort of quiet down those ideas that everything is basically out of control. And then maybe there's a comparison between what is real and what are thoughts anyways, in terms of how much each thing actually affects its reality or just exists as a thought, coming and going just like that. And that being the case, I wanted to read this part that I highlighted first for this video, because again, he's just sort of playing off of this whole idea of, you know, comparing things to other things, you know, and we're on this journey here of this story trying to unfold. It's like every time we get to this place where the story seems like it could be the one, and it isn't, it forwards actually this other story. And this other story becomes almost a story, one that wouldn't be. Like how maybe we train or we work for certain things, but the thing that the story we think would actually be is just a silent moment, you know, the final stroke of the pen. But maybe stories themselves are really just in wonder's end. You know, when a really good story seems to actually capture your attention, your imagination, it can make simple things, I feel like, be something that you congratulate or you welcome. Maybe just like getting to know somebody for the first time. And especially if there is some more than just friendly interests there, then the most basic of things and ways in which somebody moves is intoxicating. And maybe that's what reading is. In those instances, are we not reading in our lives? Perhaps it is this story that is a bridge over the void, and as it advances, it flings forward news and sensations and emotions to create a ground of upsets, both collective and individual, in the midst of which a path can be opened. While we remain in the dark about many circumstances, both historical and geographical, I clear my path through the wealth of details that cover the void I do not want to notice. The story must also work hard to keep up with us, to report a dialogue constructed on the void, speech by speech. For the story, the bridge is not finished. Beneath every word, there is nothingness. And I love that last line right there. Beneath every word, there is nothingness. It almost makes, like, I can almost imagine every book just being this sort of peril at that moment. It's like, it almost alludes to the idea that behind, every feature of our world, there is almost nothingness, right? And this is from the story Without Fear of Wind or Vertigo, and it's like just becoming now an addition to the many stories that we've read in this compilation, following these individuals trying to actually figure out what is going on with the fact that there is such a mix-up between what stories are what, and what stories come from where, and what stories come from who, and which stories do they feel are the most true, right? And so they go to the publishing house, and man, is it totally just madness almost, it seems, at this publishing house with this guy, Mr. Cavadagna, right? And he's telling them about all the people that have come in lately to translate, and the excuses that they have been given at the publishing house, and not only that, justifications. And one of the justifications that one of the translator gives, who has sort of caused this mess as to all the publications being basically misprints, from then on there, and causing other sorts of incidents involved at the publishing house. Before that, though, he describes the publishing house and how lately it's more of like things are coming from groups because they're not coming from these places of some individualist, like some poeticist or something like that. It seems the people that hang around now, it's almost like they're in twos and threes, and every book is actually from a body kind of thing. And he talks about how it's sort of in obviously the way that this writer writes, you know what I mean? There's obviously much to glean from that. But this is what is one of the letters he received back says. What does the name of an author on the jacket matter? Let us move forward in thought to 3,000 years from now. Who knows which books from our period will be saved, and who knows which authors' names will be remembered. Some books will remain famous, but will be considered anonymous works. As for us, the Epic of Gilgamesh, other authors' names will still be well known, but none of their works will survive, as was the case with Socrates, or perhaps all the surviving books will be attributed to a single mysterious author, like Homer. And then he says, did you ever hear such reasoning? And then he says, and he might even be right. That's the rub. And I'm assuming he's going to say rubbish about it or something, but so we're now in this publishing house, and they're talking to the publisher about, this whole series of events that sort of happened, and he hands them, what he thinks to be something they're after. And the beginning of the next chapter is obviously he ends up giving them another different story, basically. Okay, is basically just what happens. He gives them another story. Let me see if I can find exactly where it says that though. So, yeah. Oh, he says, wait, I'll show you. Cavadogna goes out, and when he reappears, he hands you a little bundle of photocopies. Here, it's called Looks Down in the Gathering Shadow. And you leaf through the photocopies, and from the first glance, you realize that this Regard en Bastons le Pays de Ombre by Bertrand van der Velde has nothing in common with any of the 4 novels you have had to give up reading. You would like to inform Cavadogna at once, but he is producing a paper attached to the file, which he insists on showing you, okay? And that's where he shows us the retort or whatever, and then you could tell him it didn't matter, but this isn't the novel you were looking for, but partly because you rather like its opening, and partly because Mr. Cavadogna, more and more worried, has been swept away by the whirlwind of his publishing activities. There's nothing for you to do but start reading Looks Down in the Gathering Shadow. So, you know, every day I've sort of given a little bit of remarks of what I've read and kind of like what I'm retaining from this, right? What I think is important to say, or what stands out to me most. And I can't help but just kind of feel like placing this whole book into the world. You know what I mean? Just like throwing it out into the world and looking at what a book is. Ultimately everything in this world can be reduced to value. And when I think about this idea that everything is just competing for value or resources in this world, it's just like, you know, with the story, you can command things, and life is this exercise in asserting, you know, values into things that we believe have value. And that's, you know, where I kind of think this relates to thought a lot. And, you know, well, I don't know exactly how much it relates to what the author is thinking himself, but it's just like, where is real value at? You know, like, where is true value? Because we see this author shifting, or this, the author, yeah, but our characters inside the novel shifting their values so many times. I mean, the last story we just read was about a woman who was like all of a sudden humiliating these like men in some military militaristic manner, and like basically humiliating them. And it was like this, you know what I mean? It gives me a glimpse into, like, you know what, perhaps there's totally different factions of what I would call women somewhere else or something, and it's like more of a common kind of movement in other places. And obviously, you know what, like, trying to change your position in life has a lot of value. Like, Like what has value to who? You know, it really is, to me, just like some exercise on that. And you know what? Like, even Mr. Italo Calvino is susceptible to this. If we believe anything is to be taken seriously in this world at all, and he's not, you know, the one who could actually escape well enough from reality that, you know, he never had to be responsible for a thing in his life. I mean, there's value to him in doing things, and surely there's value to William Weaver, who's the translator. And so, you know, as much as we would like to have a book that could sort of do away, right? And maybe in a lot of ways it's kind of almost attempting something like that, doing away with value. Maybe that's where truth is. Because if we could do away with value, then we would know real truth, would we not? Just like I've said with power. If we knew real power, we could let it go. Right? And I think that is sort of what is going on here in this novel at this moment. And it's sort of an exercise on, you know what I mean, with amounts, like I was saying before, and just how much can we actually do? That idea that if we can create something that heeds no value, have we actually created value? Right? And I honestly think that, you know what, if there's something that I would like to focus on today in my lecture series, or whatever you want to call it, my commentary, or, you know, my childish whim here out in the woods, boy fairy, whatever have you, reading some foreign book that's been translated that has like dominatrix-esque, very descriptive sexual innuendos, you know what I mean? But they give this real sense of just like muddy nature to the feeling of being human, which is almost in a way you know, having some feeling of childhood almost. Like that's where everything begins, is just crawling, and it is like you're you know, entrenched in things, and it's like life has these images and these experiences, and they all come and they're all playing off of this sort of machine here, and you know, it's all to serve that idea of value amongst things. And obviously, you know, the system perpetuates itself, and that's where I kind of feel like maybe there is some real value. We could change all of a sudden the types of writing there, and we could say that, okay, now we're not concerned with value as much anymore. We're concerned with the system and exactly how the system operates, but we have to have reserves to be able to change our attention to a vocabulary and a system of understanding and language that is specifically looking at the system itself. You know, but which one actually gives us more of a glimpse into what there is to be had of the system itself, you know? And where is the real value? Is it to the reader? I mean, who knows what could be discovered by somebody by reading a book, or what could change, or if you could just get something published and even just hand it out. if it was something that you felt was true. And not only that, but new. And it's almost like everything's just, you know, sort of doing that. This idea of replication and of assimilation, right? For that idea, for that sense of value, for that control, right? And that's why I say, you know what, I think sometimes it can be a difficult thing to get into a place where reading is a comfortable experience, because guess what, there are many factors that go into somebody's life before they can do something that maybe from one hand has the potential to change them or things, and or that whole idea that maybe they have a different sense of value, right? And that's sort of my outlook on this book, sort of after today's one. Anyways, guys, later.